It is becoming increasingly more difficult to live in a world that preys on our very proclivity to procreate as men. I'm talking about the sexual reflex, guys. I'm talking about our ability to make life, create children. It is being perverted. It is being taken advantage of. It is being diluted, you could say. Feels like we are inundated every single second of the day by material that will seek to turn us into mindless zombies and have our devices become our vices in such a way. So what is a man to do? What is a man to do in wake of some of the soft pornographic, try that again, material out there in the world? How if we are to retain jurisdiction over this animal, this meat suit that we live in, can we navigate the modern world? I believe it starts with purity, and there are 4 factors specifically that will make it more conducive for you to succeed in things like chastity, celibacy, semen retention, if that is of your priorities at this current time. So let's begin, as we always begin, with a mind map, beginning with pure thoughts. The less the mind dwells on sexual thoughts, the better. You've heard this common phrase, where attention goes, energy flows. It doesn't take a genius to tie the 2 pieces of information together. If you are constantly dwelling on sexual thoughts, you are going to be sexually stimulated and liable to get yourself in a lot of sticky situations, pardon the pun, and graphic imagery there. Simply put, keeping a mind chaste is a way to keep you on the straight and narrow, to keep you focused, to keep your mind and your intention and attention on your business, on your spiritual pursuits, on your love interest perhaps. But Joseph, this is incredibly challenging, maybe even impossible in the modern world we live in, is it not? I will concede, guys, it is difficult. It is going to be challenging, but there are many things that you can do that will be conducive to your success. The first is removing sexual thought triggers. There is no excuse, gentlemen, for you to be claiming that you are on this path of liberation. Perhaps you're attempting brahmacharya, and brahmacharya is very, very strict on this idea. You can't be considering yourself to be a brahmacharya, walking the path of the divine, if you are constantly lusting over images in Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, any other social media, right? It is not conducive to chaste, pure mind, because you are triggering yourself with the environmental cues. The second thing, which is very, very, very important that you do, is practice thought redirection. Controlling thoughts is difficult. Believe me, I struggle too. I struggle maybe more than I would be willing to admit. But one thing that has really helped me is redirection. So let me take you through the stages here. Step 1, you have a sexual thought. They may naturally appear as a consequence of some of the graphic material that we have naively inundated our neurochemistry with over the past years. Step 2 is to redirect it to a predetermined thought. So this is going to take some practice. This is going to take some strategy, meaning that you will have determined before you set out on this path a thought that brings you the greatest justification on why you are doing the thing that you are doing. So in me and my head, it is an image of my higher self. It's me built, tanned, the sun beating on my skin, with my wife, with my family, with my children. And, we're on a beach and we're frolicking in the sunlight. And it's a very powerful image. It gives me that idea of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm doing it for family. I'm doing it for marriage. I'm doing it for all these things that I believe are congruent with God, love, holiness, spirituality. And whenever I get a thought that tempts me into pleasure, into fleeting and finite and cheap pleasure, I redirect my thought back to images of my higher self. And I have many of them. That's just one example I've made up on the spot. The actual one is a little bit more specific, but that's my thought. So what is really an excellent exercise for you to do is create a scene that implies you have everything that you would ever wish for in your life. And if that is not the justification for doing what you're doing, I don't know what could be. Make it grand, make it very elaborate. Maybe it's you, maybe you're driving a fancy car, maybe you're driving the Lambo, maybe you are speaking at a public conference and you're very successful and you're in a business suit and people are clamoring to meet you and they want your attention. Maybe that is the rationalization. Maybe that is the love and affection that you deserve, that you need in order for you to put this bad habit at bay. Step 3 is to practice this through mindful and meditative practices. Now, meditation is an integral aspect for you to keep your mind chaste because it practices thought redirection. Think about when you are sitting in meditation and you're watching the breath. A thought will crop up. It will appear. It will try to pull you away from the breath. It will say, Joseph, you've forgotten to put your washing in, right? And it will try and grab your attention away. And you may indulge it for just a moment. You look at this thought and you say, why are you here? You're not really my priority at this moment. Let me bring my thought back to the breath, right? So it's the practice, it's the exercising of your very attention muscle to have something distract you and then bring it back to focus. That's what you're doing. When you're tempted by an illicit thought, bring it back to focus. You're constantly doing this, right? And you get better and better and better at this. And then it becomes second nature. And then it becomes easy for you to do. You have complete jurisdiction, complete dominion over your mind. Let's segue into pure pastimes. So you are no longer getting an influx of dopamine through the sexual stimulation. Where are you going to source it? So one of the problems, one of the difficult barriers that you're going to have to overcome is dopamine, right? You've had your synapses flooded with dopamine for so long. Now you have to reteach your body how to experience dopamine in a more healthy way. You have to retrain it to find dopamine in novel things of intrinsic values to you. The most important thing about this, I believe, it is to be planned. You have to plan leisure, right? Because if you don't plan leisure, your mind will go on autopilot and it will go into the path of least resistance. So it's mindless pleasure, right? It could be. I'm actually watching tonight. It's not my team playing, but Chelsea versus Liverpool. I've scheduled that in my diary. That is something I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying the idea of going to watch, right? Going to the pub with my friends, maybe having a beer or two. I know the beer is bad, guide for the estrogens. I'm moving on to tequila. Maybe it's swimming in the sea. Summer is fast approaching here in the UK and the South Coast, and I will be out there drinking in the rays. Meeting with friends, doing leisure activities, bouldering, going to the gym, playing football, all are scheduled in my diary because idle hands are the devil's work, right? If you're not planning these things, let me be frank with you here. Most people relapse into bad patterns because they have not planned their day out and they get bored. And then when they get bored, they go to the easy thing to do or the thing that will bring them most pleasure. You have to plan your day, guys. You have to have a calendar. Otherwise, you will fail. Let's talk about habits. Now, habits kind of segue off the back of planning. If you're not consciously planning out your day and capitalizing on every hour, then inevitably you go on autopilot and relapse into old habits. We've established this already, okay? So do not be surprised to find that you are being drawn into smoking, drinking excessively, and other drugs to source pleasure if you have not capitalized on those hours in the day. Most people believe that they're too busy. Joseph, I'm already too busy as it is. How can I add in reading, meditation, writing, stretching, tai chi, qigong? I can't. I call bullshit. If you're watching this video now, you know that you have more time than you will let on. Don't lie to me. I'm not going to have it. I could do better with my time. Right? And all these things, they take maximum 20 minutes. So you want to start integrating some of these habits into your calendar where you can start to redirect that sexual energy. This is sexual energy transmutation is moving that sexual energy, sourcing that dopamine into something else more novel and more conducive to the values that you are making in your scene at the start. That is the why. That is your rationality. That is your justification for everything that you are doing. Do not sit on this lightly. Pure foods. So this is a caveat from me here. I don't follow this one. The reason I don't follow this one is that it's not congruent with my physical goals, right? So this will have a significant power impact on your libido, okay? And maybe is the answer to why I get a lot of kickback from you gentlemen when I'm talking about eating meat and animal products. It is known that a vegetarian diet helps attenuate the sexual reflex. It helps mitigate it. It helps make it less potent and, what would you say, volatile. Volatile is the best word to use. Animal products are typically high in fat, which upregulates the endocrine system and increases libido. One could say they have aphrodisiac properties. The low levels of zinc in vegetarian diets and vegan diets means low testosterone has a correlation with low zinc. Pulled this little piece of Reddit, full of them, by the way. People noticing a drastic decrease in their libido since making the switch to vegetarian or vegan diets. This is an individual that moved from vegetarian to vegan. Sex drive kind of low, difficult to get aroused, other things that accompany a low sex drive, maybe ED, this individual was talking about. Has anybody else noticed that this has happened to them? Now, I don't profess to, what would you say these are either good or bad, right? It really depends on what you want to achieve. I'm sure there are many men out there who wish to go down a very, very spiritual path, right? They want to completely detach from all attachment, right? And I'll get there, but physically I like to be strong. This is my particular karma at this time, right? If you are of a disposition where you want to become self-realized, this might be a viable option for you, but you are going to have some impacts in areas such as this. There are some supplementations, there are some things that you can do that will help you in this regard, but I just want you guys to be aware. Awareness is key. I'm not professing that you need to follow these things. I'm just giving you the keys for you to make the decision yourself. If you are eating animal products, if you're eating meat, chicken, fish, red meat, you will have an increase in your testosterone and your libido. It will be more difficult for you to control the sexual reflex because you have more testosterone, right? You have more vigor, right? If you are on a vegetarian diet, it's typically more alkali, right? You're going to be more centered. You're going to find that your circulatory system is better because the anti-inflammatory qualities are heightened in vegetarian and alkali diets. You will find yourself less prone to mood swings and your emotional state will be a lot more stable. So depending on what you want and where you want to go, you can capitalize on either all or a mix in between. For myself, I have noticed that there are some times where, especially after a heavy meal, it's more difficult to control my sexual reflex. Fortunately, I have a good habit of practicing some of the chaste thoughts, pure pastimes and habits that make it more successful for me in that regard. I'm very good at thought redirection because I've practiced meditation for many, many years now. Pure pastimes, I make sure my schedule is always, packed and accounted for. And I've got some good habits and some other things that keep my dopamine nice and healthy. So, it works for me. It might not be working for you. Change it if it's not working. I always like to say systems and goals, guys. Systems and goals. If you're not getting the goal that you want, your system is broken. If you are getting the goal that you want, your system is working fantastically. But like I always say, gentlemen, these are just theories. Take what is valuable, discard which is not, and I'll bring you something else very, very soon, my friends. Take care.